Well, veteran comedian Ali Baba is our guest on the newspaper segment. Good morning to you, Ali Baba.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good to see you, Ali Baba.
It's interesting, and of course, it's such an honor to have the respected comedian and media entrepreneur join us on the very first episode of TVC Breakfast on a weekend. Let me ask you this before we go into the papers. Do you still belong to the generation of Nigerians who still go for hard copy newspaper on a daily basis? Now, despite the technology, we have digital online content and all that, or you do whatever comes your way as long as you're keeping up with the news?
So I do one hard copy paper and then do one, they call it the popular cell. There's a newspaper that the people who do business go for, and there's one that the mekunu go for. So I do one popular one and then one serious one.
Why? What informs that choice?
Okay, so what happens is that the serious one takes most hardcore news. Then the popular one does a lot more soft sell news. Okay. I just don't want to mention their names.
No,
I thought it was something maybe about street credibility.
No. So, there are certain stories that you won't find in those hardcore newspapers.
Okay. All right.
You won't see it on the headlines, but you can see it in the other one.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
All right. I mean, so you do both ways.
Yeah, I do. Yes.
Hard copy
and they're online. Online is better because most of the times when you go to like a site, they filter the news for you. So you just see what you need to see. And
well, everyone is going online now. After all,
everyone,
papers and even the other media outlets.
Everyone,
are also
TV stations, radio stations, everyone is going online.
So it's a trend we all must follow.
Yeah.
All right, Kemi, let's go into the papers. We've got 11 papers to review this Saturday morning, and of course, we've got Ali Baba to make justice of it. But let's run through the papers. We have Saturday Independent, Saturday Punch. We've got Salient Times as well. We've got the Saturday Times, the Guardian, the Nation, as well on the news paper review segment. Which papers have you got on?
There's the Nation here, the Guardian. We'll also be looking at the Guardian. You mentioned
of course,
Saturday
we have leadership
Times.
newspapers as well.
Absolutely.
So let's start from the Saturday Independent, of course, with the headline, the new trend in spas. I think it's just going for a refreshing story there, away from all the noise and the drama.
Very interesting.
Happy ending, the new trend in spas. And there's a rider massage beneficiary when done right. That's according to the physiotherapist. Clients sometimes rape assaulters. And that's from the massage therapist. And personnel run risk of sexual infections. That's a medical expert saying there. Still on the front page of Saturday Independent, let's go to another headline that is screaming for attention on that front page, and that's from the popular reality TV show Big Brother Naija that is ongoing. An housemate has been evicted recently, is giving his own account of his experience in the house. I was assaulted, bullied in Big Brother's house, and that's from Kid Wire. All right, another headline from the front page is, of course, from the presidency. Tinubu approves 5 million eyeglasses to Nigerians with sight impairment. It's a familiar thing for the president when he was the governor of Lagos. I think he had this Jiggy Bola thing that he actually did while in office. Well, Kemi, let's look at the papers from your end. All
right. Before we even go there, I actually wanted to get, Ali Baba's take. This paper that, Emmanuel just read out, which stands out for you? Could it be the issue of spas and the threats to the lives of the personnel? As we see, they talk about massage beneficial when done right. Okay, that's interesting. But then they say clients sometimes rape or assault us, and personnel run risk of sexual infections. What do you make of this twist? Or does that catch your fancy, by the way?
I think the growth of that industry has been because of one, fiscal laziness of a lot of people. People who ordinarily would have loved to go work out and get fit prefer to go get a massage to be fit. So it's beginning to grow because if you are working out and jogging and doing all of that, a spa really doesn't cut it. But if you are lazy, you want to quickly go in there, get in a sauna, and burn some fats. Or your body is feeling so weak. Instead of workouts, you go get a massage. So, but the issue now is not about the benefit to the people.
Right.
It is the risk that the people who take part in it are running. And some of these people are, because there are no cameras in the place where you get the massage. So it's possible, if there are no cameras, so you can't monitor what the person is doing.
You don't do a massage.
I do massage.
When you go to the spa, do you decide who the physiotherapist or the massage therapist that would?
Okay, so there are two
attend
ways.
to you?
If you want a sensuous massage, you want a softer hand. But if you want a reset massage, you want an jaw hand. Those people that need to your bone. Right. Yes. So though the jaw massage can leave you heartbroken sometimes, but because those guys can be very strong. Their pulse, the pressure can be very strong. But a sensuous massage is most times what leads to what you're talking about. Because if you go to a spa and you want a sensuous massage, you choose which one you want, whether a man or a woman, depending on your preferences. That's what they give to you. But the danger is now about the rape and sexual assault. So that should be serious.
Okay, which other story are you, looking at this Saturday Independent? There's a story involving drug on the streets of Asaba. I think that's where you're from, Delta State.
Yeah, I'm from Delta State. Not too long ago, some people were arrested for for organizing a wedding, homosexual wedding. Things are coming out of Delta State. They know they carry last. But I think there's need for some of these things to be checked. Need for them to be checked immediately. Because sometimes it is when you allow these things to go on that it gets out of hand. If you don't curtail it immediately. Some people have been parading themselves as cross-dressers lately, and nothing has been done about it. So until we begin to take those steps, some people will begin to get to a point where they think that the 14-year thing does not matter. So for this one, there's need to check it immediately.
They need to check the trend, the ugly trend as well. Okay, Kemi, let's see the next paper from your end.
Okay, on Saturday Punch, there's an interesting splash of stories there. The biggest is on the latest regarding the coup in Gabon, with the Nigerian government dismissing coup fear back home and ex-generals warning politicians against poor governance. All right, and then there's the other stories. Labour lists 6 grievances, begins warning strike on Tuesday. There's also, a reaction to the reports from Ogun State about Ogun local government chairman erring by prostrating before the governor, Abiodun. Then leaked nudes flooding social media is also on the front page of Saturday Punch as ladies combat blackmailers. Nino Lowo was in the news yesterday with reports about a separation between him and his wife, and the popular actor is also quoted as saying how attempts to save my marriage failed. Alibaba,
all right, so
what stands out for you?
Okay, so the first one that I will talk about is the coup. The trend is going across Africa, all the way from Sudan, stretching to Mali.
Faso, Mali.
Yeah, and what you notice is that the places where these coups are taking place, most of them are French countries, French-speaking countries, and the presidents have not done well. They've lived a selfish life. They've put the people's life, they've made their own lives priority. Instead of dealing with the economy and helping the country get better, they've messed up the economy. And they now become a puppet in the hands of the French government. And so we cannot deny the fact that it is poor governance that gives the military a ground to say we're even planning a coup. You know, the common saying is the worst democracy is better than the best, the most benevolent military. But if the tendency is for you to ignore the things that you should do, you should expect things like this.
All right, there's another story which I think I would want you to just delve into. I mean, you have mentored a lot of young people in your business, even outside of your business and media space, and even generally. This issue of nude being leaked on social media, is it Is it now a pop culture? Is it what people do deliberately to trend and gain prominence?
Again, it's a matter of not dealing with things when they come up. When people bring those kind of issues up and say, oh, my nude was shown by somebody, and you really deal with it, because there are laws against it. You can't take people's nude pictures and flash everywhere, even if it is personally sent to you. If it was sent to you, it was sent to you because you are the person that should receive it. If you then put it or use it as blackmail, it's a crime. Until you begin to do that, even when a picture is given to you, if I gave it to you for your personal consumption, and you do not have a right to make it public, it's an offense.
Especially since, people are even trying to make a comedy out of it now, saying, even in my home now, I don't know whether I should take a bath right now because I don't know who is watching. I don't know who could possibly, send out, nudes of, of a person. And I think I take the point that perhaps we need to make the laws need to be enforced. Let us see people being punished.
Let me come in there and say, cyber bullies are beginning to trend. There was a case of
a form of bullying.
There was a case of Eniola Badmus, who had somebody says anything. People feel like if you say anything you want to say, as soon as you start complaining, people be like, leave them, just let it go. No, but people like this need to be dealt with. So when 2-3 people get punished, then other people know that you can't just say what you want to say. Beyond that, you can't even just put somebody's nude pictures, even if they gave it to you. There was a time one lady, I think she left Nigeria after a while, sent a laptop for repairs. And the person that had the laptop saw videos inside and took it and was using it to blackmail her. I think she was married to a white man and then she finally left the country. But those kind of people, unless you begin to, our law enforcement agencies need to step up. Begin to deal with things now, especially with so much trending news and people looking for something to go viral. If you don't do it now and make sure that anybody that puts a picture or an image or says anything that would damage somebody's image is dealt with. If you don't do that, it will get out of hand.
All right, Alibaba, let's move to the other papers. There are other newspapers screaming for attention at this time, and of course, we need to quickly move on to them. Let's go to The Guardian. This is really, really interesting. And as new academic session begins, we can no longer pay school fees, parents cry out. But there's a rider, it says, one number of schools dropout may rise, blame subsidy removal for hike in fees, lament fees increase in government-owned schools, and palliatives can't douse current tensions. All right, let's look at other headlines from that Guardian newspaper. Tinubu Oke's initiative to provide 5 million eyeglasses. We already reported that one in one of the papers. Airstrikes in Borno Rivers yield expected results, says Nigerian Air Force. And there's another interesting one there, where, of course, the Nobel laureate, Professor Wole Soyinka, is speaking, and he says, antagonists of Isheshe are detractors, says Soyinka. And at the top of the headline, of course, is the drama in Lagos State, where Lagos Commissioner nominees rejection, the fact and the innuendos. I think that's an opinionated report there by the Guardian.
So
but let's look at the
let's jump into the first one. The first one is we can no longer pay school fees. Okay, so
Monday is here already.
Yes,
right?
school back to school drive is on.
Absolutely.
You need to then look at it first. I have a friend who said his driver normally spends 27,000 naira out of his 60K to get from Surulere to Island every month. So he had to augment that 27,000 naira from his salary every month with 10,000 naira. So he opted to 75,000 naira.
Are you talking about post-fuel subsidy removal?
No, post-fuel subsidy removal. When the fuel subsidy removal happened, his 27,000 naira jumped to 42. A distance between Surulere and Victoria Island now costs close to about like 1,002, 1,003. So if somebody like that is paying that amount from his Now, okay, so 70,000 naira. What is left? There's nothing. He can't even save for school fees. So how will the children's school fees be paid? What if it, okay, for him, it's a driver. If it was somebody who was selling basic products, he then begins to put the prices on all those basic products. If he sold something for 26 naira, because of transport, he then make it 36 naira.
40.
Or 30, exactly. Increase it just to cover up that, transfer the cost. But if you are a driver, who do you transfer the cost to? If you work somewhere, who do you transfer the cost to? So those are some points there. Then the other one about the jiggy baller. Maybe he wants to give glasses to people so people can see that people can see the.
All right, Kemi, let's take another paper from you.
Oh dear. All right. On Saturday Times, there is the big story about agonies of female NSCDC officers with the CG, the Controller General, accused of breaking marriages with high-handed policies. Then, of course, there is below that main headline is a threat by the Nigeria Labour Congress to shut down the economy with a warning strike bills to commence next week. That's September the 5th. And, perhaps Alibaba may want to talk
But didn't
about
they just
that.
call off their strike? They called off the strike about they called off.
Or they suspended.
They suspended.
Or they suspended
So
and now
when they
want to bring it
suspend strikes, what I need government to do is, like the case of doctors, when the doctors were on strike, they came to sit during Ngige's time. And when they sat down, some things were agreed on. Why is it that when you agree on something, you don't see it through? Then when the people now come up again and say, we agreed that you are going to do so and so. Look at it. Have you ever heard one day that members of the National Assembly went on strike that their monies were not paid? No.
Never.
All their monies are paid.
But there was a time we had a protest by the National Assembly workers.
The workers are different from the people
The lawmakers
elected
themselves.
who get emails.
It's expected.
So the thing is, for instance, if there's a law that says until everybody in Nigeria gets paid, the lawmakers and the executive will not get their salaries, you see that nobody will be owed.
Are you in support of the strike?
Of course. These are people who have worked for their monies. And then people who... We're just looking at school fees now. You're looking at if your transportation is 25,000 and out of your salary of 50 or 60,000 naira, it gets chunked out with transportation. Transportation then eats into your salary heavily. It becomes a problem. And so if NLC is now trying to protect their people and telling you this is what needs to be done, you have to look at it. Or you want to tell them to start working from home. Say, okay, do Monday, Thursday, or maybe 2 days out of the week, you don't come to work. So that at the end of the month, it will be a good chunk out of what. So they work from home. Those are some of the things that you have to look at. Or provide the transportation that you're working on. Okay, for instance, Lagos State has started the Blue Rail. And so that will reduce a lot
It's
of...
going to be commercialized,
exactly, yeah.
right? And then, well, of course, the federal government, coming up with
We'll buy into all of this.
so many of these palliative.
Okay, let's move to another paper now. And of course, Alibaba, I want you to look at the papers and see, perhaps we can look at something very interesting on the pages that you would dissect for us. The Nation is the next we're reviewing this morning. And the bold headline on the front page is, federal government unveils plans to strengthen Naira. I think there's some cheering news there. There's a rider, staggers release of 5 billion palliative funds to states. Why economy is weak by Finance Minister, says Tinubu will deliver better life to Nigerians. And another rider says, President inherited dead horse standing economy. And that's from the Anambra State Governor and former CBN Governor, Soludo. And of course, still stories from the front pages. Emefiele, anxiety in CBN as DSS squeezes deputy governor. And at the top of the newspaper, there are stories relating to the coup situation across Africa. Gabon military junta faces first dissension as opposition group demands power. Brand coup family affair. And Niger set for rallies to demand exit of French troops. France vows response to any attack on our facilities. And finally, from the front page, let's look at government mandates security agencies to recover 500 billion naira anchor borrowers loan. Alibaba, lots of stories here. I mean, away from what we've spoken about before now, but which of the stories are you tracking on?
First one is that you are not trying to strengthen the naira, you're trying to revive it. Otikutoni at nearly 900 naira to $1. 900 naira to $1. So it will soon be 1,000. You are not strengthening the naira, you are reviving it. Naira is dead. So you're trying to, in fact, it is CPR. You're giving naira CPR. Strengthening is when you're at like maybe 300 naira, you want to strengthen it to about like 200 naira. No, this one is dead. So the word should not be strengthening. It should be, and then the case of the coup, like we mentioned before, I think the wave is it's now beginning to raise awareness, raise fears in Nigeria that because some of our economical indices are pointing to the fact that we're worse off than some of all those places, and we have greater number of people who are below poverty line, because the world attention right now should be on Nigeria. If there's a coup in Nigeria, we pray not, but if there's a coup in Nigeria and we spill out into Africa, it's going to be wahala. We have the numbers we have cannot be taken by any country. Can't be taken by Benin, can't be taken by Togo, can't be taken by Cameroon, can't be taken by Chad. If we spill out into those places, if there's a problem in Nigeria, the numbers will overwhelm any state or country that we move into. So,
what would even be a justification, for the unlikely event of a coup in Nigeria? Because if we look at the templates in all the countries that have experienced it so far, talking about long years in office. In the Gabon example, now 50-something years for a family alone, and here in Nigeria, thankfully, we've had, at least obedience to the Constitution.
Okay,
so like you can't do more.
Okay, so what we need to know is that when there's a coup, the coup plotters always have a reason. They will give you a reason. Insurgency, political elections.
Let me ask, are we beginning to see military intervention as a viable option to democratic process?
There's an African proverb that says if you bring a wood that is infested with ants, you can't begin to ask why are lizards coming into my house. That's an African proverb that says. So our politicians need to begin to do right so that you don't invite those kind of things to happen. So we don't want a coup, but we just need to live right. If you're beginning to hear of things like monies being missing, and in some places, the kind of amount that have been missing, even the Gabon and all these other places, the kind of money missing in this country, it's 10 times the amount that people are talking about in all those, corruption in all those countries. It's child's play compared to what is happening here. It's just that we're now a people of intimidated people. When you have intimidated people, when you had the protest in Egypt and all those places, Arab Rising, that's how it started. People were now complaining about certain things. When those complaints start, you have to look into, like the president who then handed over to his son. You then begin to hear stories of the president's lagis, the things that he has, and you're wondering, how do you amass all these kind of things when your people actually need this? In the case of Nigeria, well, true, the person that is there now as president actually has a lot more before he became president, but you then think that things need to be done now. And when the pressure then becomes a lot more, you give people reason to want to justify Look at people are on the street celebrating in Gabon. People were on the street celebrating in Mali.
Niger, right.
People were in the street celebrating in Niger. In fact, the people are the ones telling the French government to move out. Then you then hear the stories of how much is taken out of the mineral resources is taken out of the country and how much comes back to the country. We can say that for petroleum. We can say that for solid minerals, which is why I said that, it's good that we now have a minister from the south running solid minerals, because the amount that is coming from solid minerals is even more than what is coming from petroleum.
But let me bring you back to the headline, which you really said caught your attention. And the rider at the bottom of that is that that's talking about President Tinubu inherited a dead or standing economy. That's from the governor of Anambra State.
Oh, yes.
Absolutely.
The man should, yes, the man should know. The man was a former CBN governor. He's an economist, international economist. So he knows where the bodies are buried. He knows that, for instance, at the time that which one of the things that killed us in this country was, at the time that we were having excess crude, cash, and money was, so your budget was about 42 naira per barrel, $42 per barrel. And you were getting 110, 120. Those were the times that those kind of monies would have been saved, like the story of Joseph in the Bible when he told Pharaoh.
The days of plenty.
The days of plenty.
Right, in days.
But what happened? The governors went to court and said, no, share everything. That was the beginning of our problem. The governor said, share everything. And so they went to court. Well, the Sovereign Trust Fund was set up at that time. So the Sovereign Trust Fund was the kind of place that you'd have put SS crude accounts. They set up an SS crude account and put the money there so that when there's not much, you then bring from there. So you boost your foreign reserve. The governor said, no, every money is made should be shared. And all the monies were shared. But it did not translate into a better society, a better economy, a better life for the people. So now we're facing the consequences. That's what the man is referring to. For instance, if the roads were this bad, look at the road between Saple and Warri. It's terrible. How long has it been taking us to fix Lagos-Ibadan Expressway until they then gave it to this new construction company that is... and the income, most times if you're doing this kind of road, you would have created your alternative route and done that. We had the old Benin Ore Road. Absolutely. You'd have done that one so that traffic can begin to go to that one while you're diverted to that one while you are doing this one. That was not done. And if we have a backlog of things that should have been done, when a new government comes in, it will be faced with those issues. Okay, if you marry a woman who had like 6 children and all of them have not paid school fees, and when you then marry the woman, all the school fees issues will still be there. You have to then deal with those ones. So that is what the man is mentioning. And he knows, as the former CBN governor.
And the president, has also spoken about, being mindful of these things, these challenges and, calling for patience of Nigerians. And of course, there's also the issue of states, how well can states even fend for themselves at this time, no matter what the federal government would bring now, but, the onus somehow rests on the capacity of states.
But see, they're still just sugarcoating the rot that this president, yes, because it is same party. If it were a PDP government that had this government now, that if Tinubu were a PDP president, the things that would have been unearthed would have been grave. So right now, they're still being okay. Like when Urubado spoke one time, he said, we inherited a bad economy. He's just putting it mildly. We're in deep holes. Deep. They say when you are in a hole, stop digging. Except you don't want to come out of the hole. When you are in a pit, you stop digging. But right now, we still have to continue digging because we still have to continue borrowing. The new finance minister and coordinating minister of economy has said that the government will not borrow. The only way you would not borrow is tax. Because you're not going to earn more from, because you're not the one that dictates the price of crude. You're not going to. More so, a lot of your crude gets stolen and sold. So, and then the major source of your monies and funds and revenue for running your government is petroleum. When in truth, what you make from solid minerals should be much more than. So there's a lot. Infrastructure deficit is one of the reasons that we're where we are.
All right, Alibaba, let's still stay with the nation. It appears there are some interesting headlines.
Yep.
Let's look at the headline. Let's look at the human interest story there. I mean, let's move away from all the hardcore news, like you say, you described them.
Yeah.
Let's look at the Abuja communities where girls' breasts are suppressed to save them from rape. Can there be any justification for anyone to molest anyone?
It is,
and now it looks like the community are now beginning to say, look, if our girls are looking too beautiful, maybe we'll suppress some of the things that are attractive.
You see, it is.
Molest them. Is this the way to go?
This is the same reason they give for the female genital mutilation. Oh, girls,
prevent them from being
prevent them from being promiscuous. Let's cut it off. Instead of protect the society, it's like instead of stopping people from crime, you say, okay, go and build burglary proofs. I think we should get to the bottom. Anyone that molests anybody should be dealt with. Report these cases and charge them to court. If you know that molesting a woman will throw you in jail, you will stop. But when people get away with it, like the case of the senator that went to a sex shop and slapped an attendant. If he were in jail, or if he lost his seat as a senator from that incident, it will stop any other person from doing the same. But these days you find that people get away with murder. That's why we're here. That's why we're where we are.
Okay, Alibaba is a veteran comedian and a media entrepreneur. He's been the one joining us on the maiden edition of the Breakfast Show this weekend, reviewing the paper. And what a time we've had with you. Kemi, would you find words to describe how engaging this has been?
I'm even curious to know about the hat we have given you to wear. I think it's interesting, bringing you on board, taking you slightly away from your, your core profession, but somehow humor. Yes,
but you see, most times it is that, like they said, comedy is telling people something to laugh about, and when they are laughing, you stick the truth in.
And something to think about.
So when they are laughing about it, then the truth then hits them. But some of the issues you're seeing right now are beyond laughter.
Relatable.
The country right now is in a deep hole, like the governor has said, the Soludo has mentioned. You hear the cases, cases of monies that are missing. The anchor borrowers have listen. We forgot to mention about the anchor borrowers.
One or two
now, the anchor borrowers, listen, is that once money is shared to people in an economy where people are not buoyant and are not making money for themselves and are struggling, it's hard to recover that money.
Just like AMCON.
Yes, the money just goes down because the person that was earning 60,000 from, maybe 25,000 naira a month from petty trading, and then you give them the anchor borrowers fund, and has not been able to sustain themselves, talk less of make enough to pay back. How do you want to get that money back?
You're advising the government to...
Let the government look for... let the government... That anchor borrowers... why didn't they ask for anchor borrowers money before elections?
Alibaba is our guest on the newspaper review segment. It's thrown a lot of punchline, but we've had a great time. Reviewing the papers with him. It's a pleasure to have you.
Thank you.
Hopefully we'll
Thanks
have
for having
you
me
on subsequent edition of the program.
Right.
Well, that wraps it up for our newspaper review segment. And of course, we're reaching the halfway mark on the show for now. And it even gets better from now.
Entering into, another interesting half now, when we talk about, all the goings on in the world of entertainment and sports. That's something to look out for.